My name is Fama Omolara Olashade Abimbola. I'm here this day representing the Federal Minister of Agriculture in the person of Senator Abba Kyari CON. At the 4th edition of Agri-Investment and Capital Market Conference, holding on this day, April 25th, 2024. I can say it's a serious environment. So I'm going to skip all the protocol and everything. But to every distinguished ladies and gentlemen here present, and to all the paparazzis, please, you are most welcome. It is with great honor and privilege that I stand before you today as a representative of the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abba Kyari CON, at the 4th edition of the Agri-Investment and Capital Market Conference, AICN 2024. I extend the Honorable Minister's sincere regret for not being here, which is due to exigencies of duty, as we are all aware of the duty calls at all times requires concerted efforts to address, and most of the time it is you're not even prepared for them. The Honorable Minister also extends his heartfelt gratitude to the organizer, Welcome to Africa International, for convening this vital gathering aimed at addressing the critical issues concerning food and nutrition security, with a focus on concerning connecting deals, seeding growth. As we convene to deliberate on an essential aspect of development and progress seeding growth, these we can relate to our personal lives, communities, or the global economy. The process of nurturing and cultivating growth as an essential aspect for any nation's success. We are all here today to discuss and see how seeding growth implies the deliberate action of planting a seed to cultivate and harvest something greater at a later day. Just like a seed needs the right environment, nutrients, and care to flourish into a healthy plant, the same principles applies to our endeavor. When it comes to personal growth, we must strive to continuously learn, challenge ourselves, and step out of our comfort zones. It is by embracing new opportunities, acquiring new skills, and seeking self-improvement that we can truly unlock our potential. In order to cultivate personal growth, we must be resilient and open-minded, always looking for avenues to expand our horizons like we are doing today. In the same vein, it is through the active participation and engagement of individuals, professionals, and investors that the agricultural sector can flourish. This we can achieve by nurturing a sense of togetherness, encouraging collaboration, and investing in infrastructure, education, and social programs. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to global economy, seeding growth becomes crucial. Governments and businesses must understand the importance of investing in innovation, research, and development. By supporting entrepreneurship, fostering an environment that encourages creativity, and providing resources for startups, we can cultivate an ecosystem that paves the way for economic growth and prosperity from here. However, while the process of seeding growth is crucial, it does not come without challenges. Just like the plants may face adverse weather conditions, pests, or even lack of resources, our efforts to cultivate growth may encounter obstacles. It is during these difficult times that resilience, adaptability, and determination becomes very paramount. We must not be discouraged by setbacks we might have encountered in the past, but rather see them as opportunities for learning and growth. Furthermore, as we seek growth, we must ensure that it is inclusive and sustainable. We cannot afford to pursue growth at the expense of the environment or marginalize the communities where we're going to be. We must strive for growth that benefits everyone. Leaving no one behind must be our watchword. By promoting equality, preserving our natural resources, and embracing sustainable practices, we can foster growth that is both beneficial and long-lasting. In the second phase, we are here today to link up business deals or partnerships that can contribute to the growth and development of Nigeria, most importantly, the agricultural sector. We will identify and establish strategic alliances, collaborations, and investments that have the potential to drive expansion, increase market reach, enhance capabilities, or achieve our desired objectives that will bring development to our nation. We are all seated to lay down the groundwork or foundation for the growth which involves investing resources such as time, efforts, capital into initiatives, strategies, or projects that have the potential to yield long-term benefits or facilitate growth that will bring development in all spheres of our lives. By connecting deals and seeding growth, companies and organizations here present can tap into external resources and expertise, leverage synergies, assess new markets and customer bases, which will go a long way in improving whatever we are into. In conclusion, seeding growth is a fundamental process in our lives, in our communities, and even in the global economy. It requires intentionality, dedication, and a commitment to creating an environment that nurtures progress. Let us embrace the challenge of seeding growth, knowing that the rewards are not only personal, they're not only personal success, but also a better future for the agricultural sector and the nation at large. Together we can cultivate a world of growth, innovation, opportunity to the benefit, to the betterment of all concerned and to our nation as a whole. But please, before I put a closure to this reading, there is something I saw on net yesterday. And when I was going through it, I said, anywhere I have to, I'm going to share with us. Please, for us to move into a global economy, and we need to save the day, we cannot always be looking outwardly. We must intentionally, first of all, look inward to satisfy our global needs before we move outwardly. And please, there is this side of question that people are asking now, that whatever we're doing, economy must be our watchword. Are we improving financially? Because if we're not, everything is just like the statistics. Thank you for listening. God bless the organizer, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
I'm really glad to have you all here. And just like the MC mentioned, the panel topic for this session is going to be connecting to the global harvest, strategies for improving international trade and investment. So as the name implies, we are end-to-end looking for how we can ensure that there are sustainable market systems for agricultural products in Nigeria. And bear it in mind that this panel session is going to be as interactive as possible. So at some point you may actually see me standing and trying to get insights from the audience. But at this juncture, I'm going to start with the first round of questioning, and we'll start with Lamisa. Please, like I mentioned, your voice is too solemn, so you can try to speak up so they can hear everything you say. So for the first question, we are quite familiar with the activities of AFC. We know that AFC has experienced financing infrastructure projects across Africa. Are there specific agri-business related infrastructure projects the AFC is currently financing? And how can this and other infrastructure development projects be strategically leveraged to unlock Nigeria's agri-business potential for international trade? So I'll go over the questions again so that we are all acclimatized with it. So, like I mentioned, AFC has experienced financing infrastructure projects across Africa. Are there specific agribusiness related infrastructure projects the AFC is currently financing, and how can these and other infrastructure development projects be strategically leveraged to unlock Nigeria agribusiness potential for international trade? So over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Francis. So yeah, as you mentioned and I mentioned, the Africa Finance Corporation is our main investment in the infrastructure space. But within that, we do provide infrastructure that's related to the agribusiness sector as well. The Glojibe SEZ, Special Economic Zone, was actually a replica of Arise's first Special Economic Zone, which was the Nkok SEZ in Gabon, which was also created to transform the timber sector in the country. Prior to its existence, Gabon had been exporting raw logs at about 130 euros per cubic meter. Following on from the success of the policies that the SEC put in place, Gabon quickly rose to become one of the world's largest exporters of veneer. They also export plywood and even furniture costing as high as 4,000 euros per cubic meter. So, following on from the success of, Nkok and Glojibe in Guinea and Gabon, Arise has started to expand around the continent. We are developing SEZs in Rwanda, in Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, we have one in Togo, and most importantly and most relevant, one in Nigeria, all of which will have an agro-processing element to them. AFC is a majority shareholder in Arise and will continue through Arise to expand its special economic zone presence across the continent. Special economic zones aside, we have also identified other opportunities in the space that we feel creates a lot of impact, and these are food storage and logistics, dry and temperature control, so cold storage. We feel that investments in this space would have a significant impact in reducing post-harvest losses and will also increase the quality of Nigerian products. When I say this, I mean, storage and logistics usually come with value-additive services such as bagging, fumigation, and and even things like traceability. And these are all key features that one needs to have when you want to compete internationally and take a larger share of international trade. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm quite sure for us that followed, a major takeaway from her talk was AFC's investing activity in Arise IIP, where she gave extensive explanation on the operations the Arise IIP Special Agro-Processing Zone has. So that has directly answered the question. So at this juncture, I'm going to be asking the first question to Apex. We are quite familiar with the activities in the commodity space and the robust infrastructure that they have set in to ensure that the entire agricultural food system is sustainable. So my question goes as follows. We are quite familiar that the world population is expected to reach close to 10 billion by 2050, requiring at least 70% increase in food production and trade, according to FAO, with Apex being a major frontier for agricultural technology and through their Code Crash Crops series. How can technology be leveraged to streamline trade finance processes and improve market access for increased agricultural productivity and connecting Nigerian agribusinesses to global scale? So I would just like to go over the later parts of the question so we can follow as well. So the question goes, how can Apex as a major frontier for agricultural technology and through their Code Crash Crops series see how technology can be leveraged to streamline trade finance processes and improve market access for increased agricultural productivity? So kindly speak to that, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. So interestingly, we joke in Apex that we have one of our tech team or our tech side is the robust part of the highest number of the staffs that we have as of today in Apex, outside of the field operation staffs that we have. And at Apex, our core is focusing on the one smallholder farmer. Having that one smallholder farmer is the foundation of our operations. So the first challenge we identify is that what is the problem with a Nigerian smallholder farmer? He is poor, he doesn't have access to finance, he doesn't have access to logistics, sometimes even take his commodities to market, thereby increasing significantly market losses or post-harvest losses. So that started our first solution in effect. So you know what, let's situate warehouses closer to the farmers. And that was where we have our warehousing receipt system. This warehousing receipt system allows farmers to bring in their commodities to our warehouse and then they trade directly either to Apex or to any of the processors that we have willing to take their commodity. It was at that point that we discovered that the natural structure to these farmers is that aggregators or merchants goes to them, gets their commodity, X their farmland or even X their houses and give them the lowest price. So these farmers don't actually know even the worth of the commodities that they farm, thereby not even allowing them to access or get the best profit or value for their commodities. Finding that out was how we got to the point of creating our first technology solution, which was COMEX. So COMEX became that trade platform where we now have processors that uses these raw materials by the farmers to come on the platform to list up their orders. And thereby we granted what we now call price discovery or price transparency to the farmers. So today, a Nigerian farmer who wants to know the price of commodity can easily go to that platform to check the last traded price of that commodity. And once they know it, we can give them an idea of the buying price or the value of that commodity. Now, we discovered that as of today, there is a disparity between what Nigeria produces in terms of grains, maize, soya beans, cocoa, cashew, rice paddy, as against the demand that is also available in Nigeria. It will be interesting to know that of all, as of today, there is a supply gap, there is a shortage gap across board, that it requires, in most cases, importation of these grains. Today, you will hear that maize is now imported in Nigeria, whereas Nigeria at one point in time was producing about 11 million metric tons of maize. But one of the biggest challenges, because there is no structure in that market, there is no linkage. And what FX is doing today is now bringing a system in terms of, one, identifying the farmers. Once we can identify the farmers, solve for some of the solution of the farmers, warehousing. And that has gotten us to make sure that today we have a significant number of storage facilities across the country. At last count, we are at about 350,000 metric tons to 400,000 metric tons in storage capacity across various grains in Nigeria, across almost 36 states in Nigeria. Then the next step was logistics. We also have a robust supply chain logistics to assist farmers to either get their commodity from the farmland to our warehouse, or help the processor pick their commodity from our own warehouse to their own farm gate. As we start to simulate the various challenges, we start to solve and transfer fair prices, even on the processor side and on the farmer side. And we discovered that the more we are able to generate data, the more we use this data and leverage on our technology platform to solve for these challenges. And that started our Code Cash Crop program series, where we bring in stakeholders on the technology side to look at what are the new technologies that we have today that can solve the challenges of the farmers. A lot of these farmers are unbanked. A lot of the financial institutions are not even getting to the farmers. But in the last 5 years, we've had a lot of Nigerian SMEs who are into financial solutions, being able to now, bring these unbanked farmers into the financial institution, thereby allowing them to access finance that they were not able to access before. Now we are able to also these farmers, now that they are now banked, what are the challenges they have? Access to quality seeds, access to input. Some of them don't have the required capital to buy fertilizer or quality seeds. So as effects, what we do, we also went into some sort of input financing to say, we can support you with your fertilizer, we can support you with quality seeds, and at harvest we have field extension officers that work directly with these farmers. So it's not just about giving them the seeds and the input and going away. We stay with them in the farm. Some of them, we brought them together and form cooperative or a community. And with that, we are able to follow through, even sometimes offer good agricultural practices. Sometimes, because of our input financing programs, we even link some of them with insurance, where even if something goes wrong in the course of whatever programs that we have, there is a sort of recourse that also goes to the farmers.
So my next question goes to Lamisa. And yes, like I said, we have a fixed time for lunch. So we'd just like to ask you a question, especially around your infrastructure activities as well. But of course, on this question, we're looking at the macroeconomic level. And the question is as follows, right? From the AFC's perspective, what are the key macroeconomic factors that have hindered agribusiness and trade-related projects in Nigeria? and what measures are needed for improvements towards achieving an increase in food production. So the question is as follows. We'd like to know the macroeconomic factors that have hindered agribusiness and trade-related projects from the AFC's perspective. So over to you.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you. Some key macro factors we have identified are inflation and currency mismatch issues. We see that a lot of businesses in the sector that have maintenance capex that are forex denominated struggle in times of instability. So times like now, for instance. And what happens is it's difficult for them to forecast their cash flows, their business operations going forward. And that's also difficult for investors to come in because we don't know what the future looks like. It's a tricky one, but in terms of measures against it, it's for us to continue to build our local technical capabilities so that we're able to do a lot more on our own and rely on more Naira than exposing ourselves to FX fluctuations. Another issue we've identified is lack of regulation or poor policy. This has the impact of deterring international and even local funding because, if a sector that is promising, for instance, I'll say cold storage, it will have a huge impact in Nigeria and there's a huge opportunity here, but it's not regulated. There's no regulatory body currently that exists. And even the government is not showing that they have the technical capacity to monitor the space. So, a DFI, for instance, will not have the confidence to commit significant amounts of capital in a large-scale cold storage project across the country. Solution here is obviously it's quite straightforward. We need more regulation in certain spaces. It's a signal to the market that there are certain standards that are being adhered to, and certain monitoring capabilities have been put in place. A big one for us, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with this, is the impact of infrastructure deficits on businesses. Expensive and unreliable power, particularly evacuation issues. So inadequate road and rail infrastructure, congested seaports, and once again, storage and logistics, improper handling and storage and logistics. This is particularly damaging in the agribusiness space because access and speed to market is quite important. In terms of measures, also quite obvious, more investments in the space would be great. Better paved roads, more updated operations in seaports, because sometimes congestion issues can be due to outdated infrastructure, so it depends on what the issue is. These will help reduce evacuation issues that a lot of agribusinesses face. There are two other ones that are actually not macro, but they do affect the space. I'll speak quickly. Security is one. This serves as a barrier to entry actually for some businesses because there's some states where you might want to locate yourself or you can't because you're worried and it's perceived as dangerous. It also actually affects businesses that are already in the space because they might not want to expand to those areas because of security issues. It's also a tricky one to mitigate against, but we've seen that locating yourself in a cluster or a special economic zone that provides 24/7 security will reduce the chances of even things like theft. Terrorism aside, things like theft will be reduced in the situation.
Okay.
The last point, very quick. It's not a macro issue; it's a global issue. Is climate change because adverse weather conditions impact accessibility and availability of raw materials, which will impact obviously directly agribusinesses. So those are some things that we're looking at.
All right, fantastic. I'm quite sure we took notes on that. I'm tempted to not ask the next question because I'm trying to look at the time to respond, but of course I'll ask the question. And the question goes to Apex. So typically what we want to understand is, we understand the global impact of currency volatility and exchange rate regimes, right? So we want to understand what innovative system exporters can leverage to de-risk trade issues resulting from exchange rates and price instability. So what measures can one mitigate one can deploy to mitigate currency risk? So over to you, and please make it brief.
I think that's a really tricky question, in my opinion. If I know it today, I'm sure that I'm making a lot of money offering that. You will not agree with me that the commodity market as of today in Nigeria is still, the higher percentage of it is still unstructured. We are getting to where we are now saying, you know what, let's start to have proper contracts that is binding both on the buyer side and the seller side. Once that takes shape, once that takes effect, and there are now structured markets, there is a regulatory body guiding both stakeholders in that ecosystem. I would 100% say that the derivatives market is that solution to de-risking your exposures to foreign exchange fluctuation. The other fact is as simple as solving the biggest challenge to price movement, which is the economic challenge, supply and demand. The moment we can solve supply and demand, there is going to be sort of price stability and consistency. Today, what we have experienced in cocoa, for example, which is a global challenge anyway, going all high to about 10 to $1,200. January, February was the challenge due to supply market. But here in Nigeria, a lot of the exporters that even took position when prices of the commodities was high. Unfortunately, at that point in time, the exchange rate in Nigeria was also high. But now the exchange rate has suddenly come down. So the point I'm trying to make there is that the government policies, government also now need to start making policies that ensures that some industries such as agriculture are not directly impacted with some of the decisions they make. Today, any of the speculators that have taken position at that point in time are now exposed significantly towards the FX rate.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So just to speak to it, he mentioned derivatives as a key primer for mitigating against currency volatility. So at this juncture, we have come to the end of this panel session, but we would like to take quick questions from the audience. Just 2 questions. We'd like to know, does anyone have questions for any of the panelists? Kindly signify by raising your hands. So we just take the questions. If there are no questions, we'll wrap it up. So are there questions for any of the panelists, or should we ask you questions ourselves? I'm actually standing. If there are no questions, I would give you a mic and I'll ask you a question. So can I see a hand? Any hand? Okay, please.
We want to make impact with smallholder farmers, but we also know that it is not very efficient when we want to go for large-scale precision agriculture. So how is FX, as FX recognizes, and how are we trying to bring that balance for food production in Nigeria?
So kindly speak to the questions, FX.
So thank you. For the first question, so no, we don't give grants. As of today, we are not doing tomatoes. So basically what we are doing is grains that has almost similar storage requirements and logistics requirements. For tomato, we are already talking cold chain, and that's not what we are doing as of today. But definitely, if you get to that point in time that we are doing that, we will definitely work with farmers that into tomato. For the second question, I totally agree with you that we need to get our agricultural systems to precision farming, but as today, the bigger question is who bears that cost. The production capacity in Nigeria, the small scale farmer is still relatively low. For example, for maize, average Nigerian farmer is still doing 2.5-3 metric tons per hectare. In the developed world, where a lot of these solutions have been commercialized, they are doing about 6 to 8, some 10 metric tons per hectare, and at that point it's fine. But as of today, the price cost of agri-precision farming to a small scale holder farmer on a unit scale would not allow us to do it, because you will be putting money into trade. But do we need to get our small scale holder farmers to that point? Yes. How do we now get that? It's the cooperative system that we are talking about. It's where now state governments now has to open lands and bring farmers together to one area, and through that we can deploy all of these solutions to them, and we can get to that part of the road. But it requires not just the effects, but government and other stakeholders in the agricultural sector to solve that.
All right, thank you so much for that. So with this, we have come to the end of this panel session. Kindly put our hands together for us, please.
All right, thank you. Paparazzi, photographer, please.
All right, thank you so much.
Photographer, Mr. Francis, and thank you for moderating that video panel session. Thank you very much. So, as we proceed into the events of the day, we'll be having final agenda and final activity for the event before we go for lunch. And to do that, this particular phase of the event is more about presentation to let us understand some investment activities of certain picked up the organizations or industries that are doing quite well, and for you to hear them directly from them on what they are doing along the value chain and the agricultural ecosystem. So to do that, I'll be calling three major speakers, but the first person I'll be calling is Mr. Amit Bose, if I'm correct. Bose. Is it Bose? Mr. Amit, CFO, Valencia, Nigeria. Mr. Amit, please. Mr. Amit of Valencia, Nigeria, CFO, are you here? All right, so please come over to the podium for a 10-minute presentation on what you do at Valencia, Nigeria. Please, you might have to stay here, please. I'm sorry we couldn't show you the slides, so we have to talk about it. So after that, I'll be calling Wadiale, MD CEO, Radial Farms. All right, thank you very much.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to give me to speak on this platform. So essentially, we will be covering in this presentation, or rather in the discussion, about the prospects of the cashew kernel, which is exported from Nigeria, with the prospect of the cashew kernel in this country and in this continent also for that purpose. So as we speak today, if you see, cashew is the 4th largest consumed nut in the globe. The almond is the highest consumed nut with almost 32% share, while cashew accounts for almost 16% share, and this has a tremendous potential in a continent like Africa as well as in a country like Nigeria. So if you see the overall global raw cashew nut production, it was 2.7 million metric tons in 2012, and it went up to 4.4 million metric tons in 2022, of which Africa produces about 54% of the raw cashew and Asia produces about 40% of the raw cashew. But the problem lies somewhere else. While the continent produces almost more than 50% of the cashew, the problem is the processed cashew is actually not produced in this continent or in this country for that purpose. If you see Nigeria in standalone, the total market size of the raw cashew and the total production capacity of raw cashew is 250,000 metric tons. But only 20% of this cashew is processed locally and exported out of the country, while the balance 80% is actually processed in countries like India and Vietnam. So we can boldly say that the story of cashew is somewhat not very different from the story of crude that is there in the country today. If you see, countries like Vietnam and India account for almost 52% and 38% of the cashew production, the processed cashew. The challenge is, can we actually divert those productions in countries like Nigeria and the neighboring countries? That is the question to be answered. So what are the challenges which the cashew industry faces? What are the challenges that we in Nigeria encounter? Some of the challenges that you see obviously today is the tremendous forex volatility and the high cashew prices. If the inflation rates are to be considered today, the country is witnessing about 33% inflation, with more than with about 40% inflation rate, while 33% is the total inflation of the country. If you see, the food inflation for the country is more than 40%, and that is one of the biggest challenges for the country. The second is accessibility to finance. We have seen in this current calendar year, the interest rates have been revised twice with 600 basis points revision in the interest rate. This obviously makes the cost of doing business much more expensive in this part than any other part. Today, as we speak, the MPR stands at 24.75%. So the accessibility to finance to the farmers is obviously quite huge. Then Nigerian cashew has a typical characteristic. It has the toughest peeling among its peers that you see across the continent, and it's a highly labor-intensive industry. The other problem that this cashew industry faces is the high energy cost. We know that the country already witnesses high energy cost. So the vision should be, can we reduce our energy cost by way of dependence more on renewable energy from the traditional fossil fuel energy? Today, if you see, Nigeria across the continent has the second highest variable cost in producing cashew after IBC. The direct cost of processing cashew in IBC is $146 per metric ton, vis-a-vis Nigeria has $128. It is the second highest across the continent, in which almost 30 to 35% of the cost comes from the energy cost. So can reasonable measures be taken to reduce the energy cost in this direction? Obviously, while the measures were not less, along with it came the abolition of the RT200 scheme. There was a rebate that used to be provided to all the processors by the government or by the CBN for the export of cashew from the country or export of processed product from the country. But sadly, in 2024, the rebate has been withdrawn by the government, which has made the cost of business even doing higher for all the exporters across the country. Along with it, obviously comes the congestion of the port, and cashew being a perishable product, or for that any food commodity being a perishable product, will always need a quicker port clearance. Otherwise, the challenges for the agricultural industry will continue to be there. So can measures be taken by the government, by the port authorities, to actually have a quicker clearance for the goods, especially for the food items at the port? Now, what are the benefits? If the cashew industry comes up, what are the benefits? Cashew industry, if it comes up, it has the capability to generate definitely employment in the country. And if you see today Valency, more than 70% of the workforce in Valency cashew factory are women. So if the cashew factory comes up, it will generate high women employment also for the country, because cashew industry is one of those industries which does not require much labor in the form of lifting of goods. It requires more manual peeling, which can be easily done by the women and can generate employment for the women of that locality. So along with producing cashew and making money out of it, you also generate a social scheme by providing employment to the women of those areas who probably will not have a chance to go out of that locality and work somewhere else for various reasons. Then the next thing is that today the cashew goes out of Nigeria in countries like Vietnam and India. It gets processed in those countries and then is ultimately exported. While India consumes most of its cashew within the country, Vietnam cashew is exported to European countries. So today, can the steps be taken where the cashew is grown in Nigeria, processed in Nigeria, and exported out of Nigeria? How will that help? Definitely that will help to reduce the carbon footprint, which is one of the biggest concerns in the globe today. The carbon footprint can also be reduced. While I speak so much, as a company, Valence is committed to process more cashew in the country. So while we already have a cashew processing factory in Ibafo, close to 15,000 metric tons per annum, Valence is also committed to start one more cashew factory in Ibafo, in Ogun State, which will be totally based on renewable energy. The entire factory will run on renewable energy, and the factory is committed to providing 10,000 employment in the country, with more than 70% of the employment to the women force in the country. So while we speak as a company, we are committed to grow cashew processing in the country. So what is the way forward for the Nigerian industry? While Valence is committed, how do we as a company foresee the growth of cashew in this country? So we believe that right at this moment, a public-private partnership is the most important thing. As far as the government is concerned, we all know it is not the government's business to do business, but probably short-term incentives with predictability in giving the incentives, because in many cases we know that the export grants are unpredictable. We don't know when it will come. So the predictability in the grants is the most important thing. Finance can be made easily available to the farmers, probably by linking with the NIN number. Today the NIN number is quite common, so probably the linking of the NIN number so that there is no fraudulent activity and the money goes to the right person can actually help the farmers to grow cashew and to increase their hectare yield. As far as the private sectors are concerned, they need to introduce technology to derive efficiency in the farming. They need to see that the infrastructure development is there by the government, which can easily be accessed by the private players. And definitely access to working capital will help the farmers to grow the cashew, and probably the day will come when the entire 250,000 tons of cashew will be processed and exported out of the country. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm calling the next person for our presentation, and that is Yosola Ononuga. That is a global sustainability expert, TGI Group. Yosola, please come forward for your presentation. Please help clap for Yosola as she comes forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So, thank you to the organizers for putting this together. My name is Yosola Ononuga, and I work with Tropical General Investments Group, popularly known as TGI. TGI is short form for Tropical General Investments. We have a group of companies. Some of you may know of Wakot Rice, Wasil, Cormat, about 30 subsidiaries under TGI. But I'm here to talk about Wakot Rice and the rice value chain and how we can ensure sustainable growth in the rice value chain. So I want to speak briefly about what we've been doing. We have one of the largest rice mills in Africa, in Kebbi State, and we do buy paddy from farmers all over Nigeria. Apart from that, we have a lot of investments in, our growers program, and we also did an outgrowers extension program with the support of the West African Trade Investment Hub, supported by USAID, which we just concluded about late last year. So one of the things that we've been able to achieve is ensuring that the farmers are supported with the right input. So we have in the outgrowers program, we do what we call input financing, where we support the farmers with the raw material, with the inputs that they need, maybe, and then to take that investment load off of them, ensuring that they also bring the excess back to us. And the mill is right in the middle of Kebbi State, where most of the rice in Nigeria is produced. So that logistics issue was taken out by putting the mill strategically in that location. We've been running the Outgrowers program for about 6 years now, and it's been with over 14,000 farmers in our supply chain. We also have a separate financial inclusion part of our program, where we want to enhance the rural economy in the communities where we're sourcing from, because you really cannot have real economic growth without improving or enhancing the rural economy. So we've done a lot of partnerships to promote financial inclusion. One of the major ones we did was with Union Bank, where we partnered with Union Bank, and we actually did a financial inclusion drive, you know, when you open bank accounts for the farmers, because at some point you have to enhance the skills so that they don't just stay smallholder farmers, they become entrepreneurs and businessmen who can actually trade. Another thing that we did a lot of development, national identity commission was involved to ensure that, you know, they all have forms of identity, because without these basic things, you really can't have a bank account or even do a business. So we do a lot of groundwork to support the farmers, having our team embedded in the communities. So far, we've been able to, you know, support about 10,000 farmers, and then women over 10,000 as well. We've been doing a lot of training sessions. We conduct a lot of training sessions. Our partnership with USAID was instrumental to developing the capacity of the farmers. We've been able to support. The support is increasing actually. So we've been able to support from 500 million to 1 billion and upwards. And then we have strategic organizations that help us do implementation. The yields have also increased. We make sure that we target the yields, you know, make sure that they are cultivating with regenerative agricultural practices to help with yield enhancement. And engagement has increased also. We see a number of women and youth coming who want to be part of the program, and it's looking good for us in that area. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say for now. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for that beautiful presentation. So the last presentation for today's event will be done by the MD CEO of Radial Farms, Mr. Owadiale. Please come to podium to give your beautiful presentation, sir. Thank you. Every clap for him now as his jacket's now back.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the organizers for putting this together. And like I was telling Francis a few minutes back behind, I said, Welcome to Africa is a very persistent company. When they want something, they keep coming and coming and coming until let's talk about this. So my name is Owadiale Agemome. I'm the Group Managing Director for Radial Holdings Limited. Part of our subsidiaries, Radial Farms, Radial Energy Services Limited, Radial Foods Limited, the Agri-Investment Services Limited looks after our real estate arm of the business. But for this event, we'll be talking a lot more about Radial Farms. So Radial Farms is a Nigerian-owned company. I'm one of the founders. It was founded by myself and my wife. It's a purely Nigerian-owned company. We deal primarily in oil palm. However, we look into other value chains, including banana. We look into cassava. We look into coconut, and we're looking into cocoa. We've been able to secure certain partnerships with some French companies in Marseille, in Paris, where we are going to essentially grow the biggest banana plantation in Nigeria on 3,000 hectares of land. As a company, we sit on over 20,000 hectares of land. Most of this, of course, sits oil palm in the development stage. We are still actively looking for lands in several other states across Nigeria. Our goal and our target is to be the biggest primary agro producer sitting on over 100,000 hectares of land in Nigeria. I'll just say a brief about the oil palm. The oil palm, like we all know, is an African oil. It's called African oil palm. It originates from Western South Africa, home of African oil palm trees. There have been stories about the Malaysians or the Indonesians coming down here to take the hybrid seeds and all of that, but statistics says differently, so I'll leave that topic. However, the Indonesia and the Malaysian countries right now, they are the biggest producers of oil palm in the world. And this is mainly driven by their agronomic practices. Good weather as well, which we do have in some states here in Nigeria. However, they have better weather, better rainfall, and one very key part of it is they have the right funding to drive the oil palm business for them. I'll just list some of the end products of the oil palm. Like you may know, you have the empty fruit bunches, you have the palm kernel shell, you have the mesocap, you have the palm nut butter, you have palm oil and the palm kernel oil. A little brief statistics about oil palm. In 2018, the world produced 72 million tons of oil palm. 84% of this was produced in Indonesia and Malaysia. In 2018-2019, the palm oil usage amounted to over 71 million metric tons worldwide. This figure increased to an approximately 76 million metric ton by 2022 and 2023. As of the last statistics done by KPMG, Nigeria as a country is in deficit of 1.5 million metric ton of crude palm oil. So till date, there's still a huge import of crude palm oil from Malaysia and Indonesia countries. The global production of palm oil was around 72.27 million metric ton in the market yield 2019-2020. Current state of Nigeria oil palm industry. Nigeria is the fourth, maybe the fifth largest producer of oil palm in the world at the moment. However, challenges such as deforestation, low productivity, and limited addition persist. Yes, we face a lot of challenges when it comes to land usage in Nigeria. However, for Radio Farms as a company, we only do commercial agriculture. We actually, recently we incubated a smallholder scheme for 1,500 hectares of land. That will be the first under our portfolio. Normally as a business, we only drive commercial size agriculture. We don't do anything small because we've understood over the time when it comes to yield, when it comes to the quality of output, there is a minimum size of cultivated land that you must have for every value chain. If you do not meet that, you will be unable to properly implement the right agronomic practice, which will directly affect your yield on the long run. And this necessitates a strategic approach to revitalizing the industry. The importance of sustainability in the oil palm space. Sustainability is not just a buzzword, it's a necessity for long-term viability. So for us, one thing we try to do, we try to limit the amount of fertilizers and chemicals we use on our trees, thereby preserving the environment, preserving the soil that we use. Because a typical lifespan of an oil palm estate is 25 to 30 years. When you get to that economic downturn, you are not going to quit the land. You still have to reuse the land. So it all depends on how you treat the land over this 30 years period will determine if you get another 30 years from it. So essentially, if you're farming on, say, 60,000 hectares of land, you're not going to quit 60,000 hectares of land and go look for another 60,000 hectares of land. You have to continually use the same land to get the best out of it. Sustainable practices ensure environmental protection, social responsibilities, and economic prosperity. It is imperative to integrate sustainability in every aspect of value chain. Insights from industry leaders. Collaborative efforts are essential. This can be achieved by engaging with stakeholders across the value chain, including farmers, processors, government agencies, and NGOs. Now, for us as a business, we've transited to a certain level of management where most of our technical staffs are actually Malaysians. Now, the reason why we've gone in that direction, we did realize that we lacked a lot of professional hands in the oil palm space here in Nigeria. So for us to achieve the output, the yield, and the right practices that we need, we had to go a step ahead to get a Malaysian management company to our system. Again, funds that we utilize are obviously decently low, and investors they want to be sure of where their money is going and where it's coming from. So that's why for us, bringing on a Malaysian company to manage the technical part of our business was very critical. Embrace technology and innovation to enhance productivity, reduce environmental impact, and improve quality. We, as a business as well, we are driving more into technical inclusion in everything we do, including harvesting, including processing, everything we do, we try to tailor that technically such that they may be processing or producing in Edo State or Ibadan or Ondo State, for instance. It will be possible for us in Lagos at the central office to actually see real time what's going on. So agribusiness is no longer, for me, I always say this, it's no longer whatever the earth gives me, I take. It's what I tell the earth to give me, I'll take, not what the earth gives me. It's a precision business. It's agribusiness, it's not agriculture. There are two very different definitions. Invest in research and development to develop high-yield, disease-resistant palm varieties. Prioritize smallholders' inclusion and empowerment through capacity building, access to finance, and marketing linkage. Now, crafting a roadmap, we have access to plans, we have the implementation, sustainability practice, enhanced value addition. One of the things we see as a key part of sustainability is policies and regulation. Advocate to support policies and regulations that incentivize sustainable practice and value addition. Encourage public-private partnership to leverage resources and expertise for industry development. Ensure transparent governance and enforcement mechanisms to uphold standards and accountability. Now, for the oil palm space, there are industry standards globally that we try to follow. Over time, we get certified ROSPO, if some of you know about it. Without the RSPO, certain of your products cannot be exported. You cannot be recognized as one of the industry players globally. That comes with a lot of advantage, including both finance, how you treat your employees, how you manage your business, how you operate your business. Essentially, it's all under the RSPO standards. Monitoring and evaluation. Establish monitoring and evaluation framework to track progress against key performance indicators. Regularly review and adopt strategies based on feedback and challenging circumstances. Foster a culture of continuous improvement and accountability across the value chain. In conclusion, sustainability and growth go hand in hand. By embracing collaboration, innovation, and sustainability, we can unlock the full potential of Nigerian oil palm industry. Let us work together to create a thriving, resilient, and sustainable future for generations yet to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for that beautiful presentation. And I want to say thank you very much, beautiful participants, panelists, speakers, for attending the 4th edition of the Agri-Investment and Capital Market Conference 2024 by Welcome to Africa. So before I drop the mic, as an OG, I'm going to call on the convener of this event, Bamidele Ruashel, to give the closing remarks. Please, come. Help me clap for our 4th edition event, back-to-back, in Nigeria. Ain't no joke.
Hi everybody, good afternoon. And I'm wondering, where do I start? Well, I'll start with a story actually. Yesterday we had a client that flew in from, I believe he flew in from Kenya, but the company is based in UK and they have offices around the world. And they reached out to us that they wanted to access commodities in Nigeria, most especially waste. So my team and I, we planned the whole journey. We had different sites that we were going to, and were able to kind of do good matchmaking between him and the different Nigerian companies. However, on the way back to Lagos, actually, we had a bit of an accident on the way. One of the cars had an issue. There was like a fuse issue, and before you know it, we were stranded in the middle of nowhere, trying to figure out how we were going to get to even this conference actually. And eventually we found a solution, and it's funny because as we were towing the car just started working, and we were able to get to our destination safe and sound. Now at the end of it, I asked the client, really sorry about that, we didn't know that the car was going to have an issue and all of that. And I said, but are you okay? Are you alright? He was like, Babidele, this was very good. I've been able to make contact. I've been able to kind of engage with potential partners, potential suppliers, and I can't wait to do more in Africa, most especially Nigeria. So I can't wait to do more in Nigeria. The moral of the story is that, yes, I know we had some challenges today. However, I want to assume and I want to hope that despite all the challenges, we've been able to somehow achieve the objective of bringing together a room of agricultural investors, capital market off-takers, and as well as suppliers. And hopefully the more we do this and the more consistent we stay and the more that you follow us on this journey, despite the hurdles, the more we can continue to galvanize investments and trade into Nigeria's agricultural sector. So I want to take the time to thank all of the speakers, all of the partners, all of the delegates that took the time out to come here today. This is not the last. We do a lot of things in the agricultural space, along with other sectors. And we're about to close this event, but I would want to encourage you as we proceed to go to have lunch. I want to encourage you to network, because I can assure you that every single person in this room is a viable and valuable contact. So thank you so much for participating, and I wish you a splendid day. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Bamidele Ruashel. Yeah, so to this end, we want to say thank you very much, everybody, for attending the 4th edition of the Agri-Investment and Capital Markets Conference. My name, once again, is Akim Alabi. I'm a farmer, an agribusiness coach, and also the founder of Corporate Farmers International. Thank you, and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.